I can't think of a better way to wrap up our study in Numbers than to talk about Numbers 33, which is a rather random chapter. Because if you look, it says stages in Israel's journey. And then the whole chapter is filled with this conversation about where they had camped. And then it uses this language. They left, and it names the place, and they went to. Think about it. Life is a series of stages. Last week we were talking about these undesired transitions that happen in our lives. Today I want you to listen in on two very powerful stories. One of the stories is the story of the loss of a son. Another one of the stories is the loss of a fortune. Whether the transition is monetary, whether it is a physical transition, whether it's the loss of somebody, or whether it's a job change. Whatever the transition is, there's one thing that is always true. Unless there is an end, there is no new beginning. And every time there is a new beginning, there is an end. Now, if you're like me, you love new things and you like new beginnings and things to be new. But if you're also like me in another way, I don't always, even though I desire something better, I don't always find that I'm comfortable with letting go. So I'm glad that you have the opportunity this morning, that we have the opportunity to listen to two powerful stories of God's faithfulness. So we're talking about undesired transitions and the loss of a fortune. I'm glad to introduce to people Joyce Wallace. We've known each other at least as long as I've been here, maybe 2 decades. But you have an interesting story that you shared with me and you have given me permission to tell, but I think you're a better storyteller. The loss of a fortune. I want you, Joyce, if you would, to take us back 27 years ago and kind of paint the picture for people so we can understand what we're talking about.
Okay. Well, my husband and I had been married for 24 years, and just overnight he got really, really sick and went to the doctor, and they immediately put him in the hospital. And they found out he had oat cell lung cancer, and they gave him just weeks to live outside of treatment. And we learned about a special treatment in Seattle, Washington for oat cell lung cancer. They wanted my husband up there with his twin brother to make medical history so that he could see if he could be cured of oat cell lung cancer. So my brother-in-law, my husband, and I went to Seattle, and he went through treatment for oat cell lung cancer with total body irradiation. We thought he was cured and was going to come home and be okay. But it reactivated, and he died shortly thereafter. So I was 42 and he was 44. I had 2 teenagers at home, and we had been into business together for 13 years. I was mostly a homemaker and a mother, and very busy and active in church activities and that sort of thing. But I'd never been real active in business as far as the business end of the transaction was concerned. I'd clean the houses and help paint. We had a home rental business. Okay. My husband bought properties across 4 counties in Florida, and we had, I think at the time, 17 different houses, counting the house we lived in. So anyway, I really didn't want to stay in the real estate business because I felt God had called me, and by calling, I mean a desire in my heart that just wouldn't go away, and it still hasn't gone away, that God wanted me to be a Christian writer and a public speaker.
By the time this story is done, by all accounts, it's not a happy ending then, and you've lived with the results till now.
Right.
In total, what's approximately the sum of money that you're going to lose?
Over $500,000.
Okay. You went into business with a man, we'll call him
PJ.
PJ.
That's some initials there.
I'll call him PJ. He had become a Christian so far as you knew, and we assume that is correct, but his background is interesting.
Right. I learned after I went into business with him that he had been with the mafia in New York.
Well, okay then.
And but that was years before, and I really believe he was a sincere Christian, and it was to his advantage as well as mine for this business to succeed.
So you don't think that he had it in for you? Okay.
No, I don't believe he went into business intending to take advantage of me.
Okay.
I know he went into business believing that it was going to succeed and that we would share the profit.
So when was the first time that you had any indication that, something may not be just right here? This business is not going the way that we planned for it to go.
Well, we decided, first of all, I suggested we buy fixer-upper homes and fix them up for a little amount of money, do a good job, and sell them for a decent profit. Okay. He thought we should buy high-end homes and fix them up and sell them for a big profit. And I said, I don't think that's a good idea, but I didn't have a real estate background as far as me being involved in the business aspect of it. And I didn't think that sounded very good, but he'd been a broker and he'd had a real estate business before. And so I said, okay, I don't think that's the way to go, but I trust your judgment. So we bought a high-end house, one house, that didn't sell. And the money kept going out and out just to have that house there with the mortgage payment on it and all the other. So right away I began to think, this is not working very well.
Okay. So what was the next thing that happened that caused you concern?
Well, when the money kept going out with nothing else coming in, and he kept paying himself a draw that he intended to pay back for his salary. He was paying himself out of the company money and was going to pay it all back when the company started making money. Well, the company never did make money, and he kept drawing for his rent and his car payments and all the other things. So I thought, this is not working very well either. So anyway, he found a mobile home park that was supposed to be a good deal that would bring in plenty of money to pay everything back and that we'd both be doing just fine. Okay. Well, I trusted his judgment on the mobile home park. And when it came to the point we couldn't keep up what it was costing to run that and there wasn't enough money coming in, I went up and investigated why and went in the mobile homes and couldn't believe what I saw.
What did you see?
Floors falling through. People couldn't be safe standing in their bathtubs because the bathtub might not stay. And the park in very bad, dangerous conditions. So I found out, I checked with the authorities there, and the park was on the verge of foreclosure by the Department of Health and the Department of Environmental Regulation. I had no idea. And so I met with him and told him what I found out, and I suggested he either buy me out or get out.
So it's a very critical part of your story, I think. It's the time where you discovered that this trailer park that you had purchased, that he had purchased, was in such disarray that now officials are going to come in and start saying, listen, you've got to bring this up to code. So you approached PJ and you said, I want you to buy me out
or get out.
And either option was okay with you, because at this point you just didn't trust his judgment, I assume.
Right.
Okay. So you go and you talk to this man. Does he say, I'm sorry? Does he respond with, oh, my gracious, I didn't know it was in that sort of condition? What's his response to you? Is it, well, okay, I'll get out or I'll buy you out? What did he say?
Well, I gave him an option. I said, this is what I'm willing to do.
Okay.
I will forgive you everything you owe the company that you've taken withdrawing salary, that you owe otherwise that was due at a certain point. Okay. I'll forgive you that amount of money if you'll sign your interest over to me, and then you'll have no more part of the park. I knew he couldn't pay me back because he didn't have any money, he didn't have any assets, and therefore it would be able to enable me to do the best I can to turn the park around.
So, in his response, was that acceptable to him?
Yes, that same night at the same meeting, he agreed to it and signed. I already had it written up and worded so that he would be totally free of debt and could walk away owing nobody anything and be free of the responsibility, legally as well as otherwise.
Tell me the story about PJ.
Well, he had owed me some personal money, loans for help with a car purchase and some other things. Okay. We had 2 small promissory notes, And because he was struggling financially, I combined the notes into one and made monthly payment, amortization schedule with monthly payments that he agreed to, and the amount because he thought he could handle. And but then he started missing. Sometimes it'd be 1 or 2 months, and then it got up to 3 months, and then it was over a year. He didn't pay me the $250, and I'd write him letters and I hope things are going well for you. I really need the money. I need to pay my personal bills. Can you please send it as soon as possible? Well, that bothered me more than him owing me the big amount of money, because I thought surely if somebody works hard enough, he could manage to pay me that, and I need it so badly right now.
Okay, let me capture this for a minute. This is significant for me. You have a man who's taken hundreds of thousands of dollars and seemingly has no regret, which we'll get to the comment he made a little bit later. And what bothered you, though, was not that he owed you so much. It was that even on the little amount of money that was personal for his use, that he couldn't see his way to earn $250 and pay you.
Right.
And he didn't seem to have a constitution that said to him, or a faith that said, I owe Joyce.
And you know what, though? I didn't hate him for more than a minute, because I tell you, within that 1 minute's time, I began to change.
What changed?
Hate. Hate changes you. It's not for the better.
Yeah.
And I just said, I know it wasn't more than a minute. I said, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. And then I thought, Lord, I forgive him. He's forgiven totally. Because, it destroys the person doing the hating more. The person that you hate, it doesn't affect them at all.
Right. Tell us a story about Forgive It All.
Well, after you asked me if I'd come here, I went through my files that I didn't remember the details of this until you and I talked, and I'd forgotten so much of it. But I did find some things that I'd written, and it's taken me too long to read it to you. But I just said in here, I was talking to the Lord, I really believe you're wanting me to forgive all of this, but I want to make sure this is what you want me to do. I want to make sure I'm not doing it just because I know I'm never going to get it anyway. Okay. But I want it to be from my heart, that it'll be joyful and cheerful, and that I will really mean it, that I am forgiving him of this without any hard feelings whatsoever.
Are you glad that you forgave the debt?
Are you talking about the minor debt, the small debt?
Any
of the debt? I don't regret anything I've done, because I've prayerfully done everything I've done, and I've tried to follow the Lord the best I know how.
And for me, one of the lessons I've learned from you,
Amen.
When you say, I don't regret any of it because I prayed, I moved forward prayerfully, I think is one of those tangible things that we can take with us. Because when you're transitioning in life and you're leaving one thing, this horrible business situation, and you're moving to what the Lord has for you, forgiveness is an important aspect of that. Prayer is an important aspect of that. And so I've learned that lesson from you.
Well, it's as we forgive is as we're going to be forgiven.
Yes.
And I need a lot of forgiveness. God's been patient with me. He still is patient with me.
I want to thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for allowing me to.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful testament to the faithfulness of our God.